Welcome, Dolphins fans, haters, and everyone in between to your favorite show discussing the greatest franchise in sports, the Miami Dolphins. This is the PhinsPod. Happy Friday. My name is Moose, your host, and today we're going to be talking about the bread and butter of this revitalized Dolphins team, and that's the defense. I feel like this show has been pretty offensive-centric, which is great. Look, a lot of Tua talk, a bunch of discussion on skill players, who to draft, which receiver, which tight end to get. And don't get me wrong, it's way more fun than talking about drafting, guards and tackles. It just is, sorry, fatties. But it's time to show some love and really get in the gears of the defensive unit and really talk about Brian Flores' defensive approach and defend an often forgotten player who just may burst onto the scene in 2021. Without further ado, let's dive in.
It became clear this was about Brian Flores' philosophy, his creativity, and how he's using them to make his mark in Miami.
The Miami Dolphins, with an impressive defensive performance, wreaking havoc.
Y'all see the score? You see the record? We different than last year. We coming different. Man, we told y'all, we on the map right now.
When Brian Flores was brought in, he was lauded as a defensive mastermind. And look, that's a term that's thrown around very often these days. Offensive guru, quarterback whisperer, defensive genius. But Flores has shown a ton of promise since he took over. Look, not only does the team love him and clearly just wants to play for him, but he's shown that he can game plan as well against potent offenses and try to take away what you do best, coaching. But that philosophy right there, taking away what you do best. Does that sound familiar? Yeah. Flo is obviously from the school of Bill, and perhaps the best thing he did take away from his predecessor was that defensive philosophy. And what is that philosophy exactly? Well, it's all about being multiple. Having the roster and players with varying skill sets all across the board, allowing your defense to create packages and sub-packages which can now oppose a specific team and their strengths. For example, if you're playing the Titans, right, you're going to want to load up the box and be able to focus on shutting down the run and shutting down Derrick Henry. Put the game in Ryan Tannehill's hands. And in that case, you need good corners who can isolate on the outside and lock up their man. And that allows you to load up the box. And then you would likely see bigger defensive tackles in play. So, for example, a rotation of Wilkins, Raekwon Davis, rather though than having Adam Butler and maybe Zach Sealer, who are a little bit thinner, more finesse style defensive linemen. Throw in recently acquired John Jenkins, right? A huge man who can help plug up running lanes and be a force in that specific matchup. You'd also likely see Benardrick McKinney, the run-stuffing linebacker, and Landon Roberts play more snaps in a matchup like that than they would likely see in another week against a more finesse team. Similarly, guys like Sam Xavien, that finesse linebacker, the backup to Jerome Baker currently, he may not even touch the field on those Sundays compared to playing another opponent, right? So having players with those different strengths and traits allows Flo and Josh Boyer to create specific game plans and defensive looks to also combat a specific offense. So another case was when Miami played a team like the Chiefs or the Packers. The defense is likely going to be more focused on stopping the pass, obviously. And in this case, you want an arsenal of defensive backs and corners who can allow you to play zone, man, disguise your looks and coverages, and just try to counteract the passing attack that you're facing. That's why there's been a clear focus on the front seven this offseason. Trading for McKinney from Houston points to that, and adding more depth on the interior of the defensive line shows that too, with the signing of Adam Butler and now John Jenkins. Flo knows that he needs to help out his secondary and provide that organic pass rush. And that's what's missing from this already great defensive unit from last season, is that pass rush on the defensive line. So we're not going to get into that topic specifically today, but we're going to be talking of cornerbacks and DBs. And let's take a deeper view on that position group. And we're going to kick it off with Byron Jones. Jones played well last season. He's a fluid athlete who possesses elite speed, making him a weapon in zone coverage as well as against speedy wideouts. In zone, because of his athletic, explosion and just quickness and acceleration, he's able to kind of move and pass receivers off and pick up crossing receivers at a rate that a lot of corners can't do. So he is a crazy good athlete, and he played a lot better than people do give him credit for. Look, he was considered to be a top 10, if not top 5 corner when he was on the Cowboys just a couple years ago. But funny how, his name's just kind of dropped from national talks since he joined the Dolphins. Funny how that happens. But that could also be a result and the fault of this next guy, the X Factor, the man who will X out your best receiving threat, Xavien Howard. And look, I can't say anything more about Howard than you all already haven't witnessed with your own eyes. I mean, elite ball hawking ability, duh, amazing recovery speed, and dude, his anticipation of routes is bar none. That's what makes him able to jump all of these routes and be able to get those interceptions. He is able to make plays on balls, which the quarterback probably feels pretty good about when it leaves their hands. Just ask Mahomes himself, right? Not only that, but Howard's a consummate pro. Regardless of all this contract stuff, he's still showing up. He's still showing love to Miami and the fans. Nothing, nothing bitter, no anger there. Consummate pro. And he's gotten better over time, too, ever since he was drafted in the second round by Chris Greer out of Baylor. And frankly, his game could still step up a notch, which is frankly just a scary thought. Imagine 20 interceptions in a 2-year span. That's Yellow Jacket worthy. That's straight up Hall of Fame worthy. And I already think the way Xavien Howard's playing, a couple more seasons of this, maybe 25 might be in the rafters too. I mean, hey, it's a great number, so if he takes that, good for him. He legitimately, though, has that high end of talent. He does. He can do it all, and we've seen that. So, of course, you also have the safeties in the secondary. Eric Rowe holding it down. Bobby McCain looking like he made the transition to free safety quite nicely. And Brandon Jones, the best number 29 that we have had. I will say this till I die. Brandon Jones, you are the best number 29 we've had since Sam Madison. Suck it, Minka. And Jones himself showed a ton of promise his rookie season. A lot of explosiveness, was kind of all over the place, all over the field, and really good to see. You like to see that early on. They might not always be there to make the play, but they're there. And so, their second, third, fourth season, as they get better in their career, they make that play. So I think Brandon Jones could actually become, a pretty good free safety, at the next level. But I want to get into the safety specifically as well, similar to pass rushers in another episode. So today, we're going to zone in on the cornerback specifically. We're going to stay on track. Nick Needham is a nice player in the slot nickel corner position too. Yes, Needham does get beat the most often in coverage. It feels like we notice him all the time. But to be fair, he's playing, frankly, a far harder assignment as he has to cover the whole field. As a nickel corner, you're not on the boundary, right? You're covering the slot guy. So that guy can go left, right, straight. He can go wherever he wants. On the boundary, you have a sideline to play with. You have a little bit of cushion. So it's usually matched up with shiftier guys. So they're going to get open on those simple crossing routes. It's about having other pieces in your defense good enough to help combat when those 5 to 10 yard chunk plays happen, because Nick Needham isn't able to keep up, right? He definitely does hold his own. And if Needham progresses, similar to all these other guys, he could be the guy at that spot this entire season and not give it up. But he's going to have some serious competition from Justin Coleman, who was just signed from Detroit. He was one of those free agent acquisitions a couple weeks ago. But he made most of his bones not in Detroit, but back with Seattle. Coleman could either be a backup outside corner potentially, or more likely, in my opinion, he's going to compete with the aforementioned Nick Needham for the slot corner role. He's long, physical, athletic, quick, and fast enough to cover most slot receivers as well. So Miami could upgrade there as well if he pans out. And there's a reason that I have a lot of confidence in these guys panning out and working out. Justin Coleman, Nick Needham, having these guys develop. Back in 2012, Brian Flores was the New England Patriots safeties coach, right? Now, not only did he prove his worth, if you ask guys like Devin McCourty, Patrick Chung, and of course Eric Rowe, but Flores had his hand in the development of the secondary as a whole. That was proven out. I don't know if you remember, and frankly, why would you? This is a horrible memory. In Super Bowl 49, it was Brian Flores yelling Malcolm Butler's name to get him in the game to make the eventual game-winning interception. Obviously, there's a lot more that went into it, but it's good knowing Flo had a sense of his guys and who would pop, and that's been clear throughout his career. He believes in them, and they believe in him. Just look at the growth, right? Even from Xavien Howard himself while being coached under Flo. There's no doubt that he was elite before Flo came in, but the fact that he's only improved, I mean, some coaching has to go to that, right? Same with Nick Needham and a lot of these other guys who came to just have a cup of coffee, right? But didn't look too bad doing it. Tay Hayes, Ryan Lewis, Chris Lamons, Nate Brooks, random names. These were all practice squad guys, none of which have really, I think Chris Lamons might have gone to the Chiefs, but none of these guys have really hung on in the NFL, but they all played significant corner snaps for Miami in 2019, and Flores was able to get something out of them. And towards the end of the year, they were playing pretty decent. And that's why, look, I overall have a ton of confidence in this next guy. The guy who is often the forgotten pick of last year's draft, and someone who I still believe can be great at this level. And yes, I'm talking about Noah Igbinoghene. Remember, the Dolphins traded back with the Packers from 24 when they made that dumb decision to take Jordan Love and not help out Aaron Rodgers, but that's for the Packers podcast, the Pack Pod, not the PhinsPod. Miami moved back to 30 to take Igbinoghene. So when his name first flashed on screen, I remember I was like, I didn't really know him that much as a prospect. I wasn't really expecting Miami to go corner, considering having Xavien Howard and Byron Jones. And I don't think anyone knew what his name, how to say his name when it first popped on the screen. But I think most people will soon. Igbinoghene. One, not so hard, Igbinoghene, and get used to it. He entered last season being, if my memory serves correctly, the youngest player in the entirety of the NFL. I believe he was just 20 years old. Brian Flores and Josh Boyer went to the Auburn Pro Day and got an up-close and personal look at Iggy themselves. I believe it was still pre-pandemic when the Pro Day occurred, so Flores really did get to see him up close, and he clearly liked what he saw to take him 30th overall. Obviously, Greer was the one who made the pick, but you know that was a conversation that was had, and Flo had him ranked high up in his quarterback charts. So he clearly liked the mental makeup of the kid, and it's clear from interviews with Igbinoghene throughout the season that he's a confident young man and came from a hardworking background. I mean, his parents were amazing athletes in their own right. His mother, Faith Igbinoghene, was an Olympic sprinter. Olympic sprinter for Nigeria. Oh, not just Olympic, a sprinter. Noah came in raw last season, and it showed, but clearly the tools are there. Dolphins fans don't generally comment a lot on Noah. You don't see a lot of it on Twitter. People aren't posting too much about him. Dolphins fans are staying quiet because I think, personally, that they don't want to call him a bust quite yet. He hasn't shown anything either, so you can't really say he's going to be good. What I'm saying is kind of, I don't really have a basis for this other than, what I've explained leading up to this point. I trust Flores, and specifically Flores, with the secondary. He's shown that he can coach that. So if he found something in Noah Igbinoghene he liked, and especially at such a young age, only 20 last season, I'm going to go on a bit of a limb here and say that I think Noah Igbinoghene will be one of the best surprises of this upcoming season for the Miami Dolphins. Our only real exposure to him, to be fair, was week 2 in Buffalo. And I think that's where a lot of this concern and kind of tepid lukewarmness with Igbinoghene is kind of risen from. Byron Jones was injured within the first minute of the game, and in what was a questionable decision then and still questionable now, rather than throwing Xavien Howard on Stephon Diggs and putting your best player on their best player and trying to figure out what to do with the rest of how to defend the rest of the offense later, they decided to stick the 20-year-old corner without preseason or true training camp reps to prepare for what became a matchup for nightmares. He was shredded. Understandably, look, Diggs went on to have a near MVP season for a wide receiver, helped Josh Allen quite a lot, and he was clearly not ready. Speaking of Igbinoghene here, and despite being torn a new one for the most part, he got a full crash course in that one Sunday into what it's like being an NFL corner playing elite wideouts. He did try, if you go back and look at that game, to be physical and hold his own on some routes. And there were some routes that he did look pretty good, which is enticing. And it was kind of the basis for why I feel like he can develop. But he just fell far too many times for Diggs' elite tricks, route running tricks, and double moves way too often. If you remember that huge catch in the dagger at the end of the game when Miami was trying to come back, and Diggs just caught a deep bomb over the right sideline because Noah bit way too hard on a double move. So after that rough performance, the Dolphins decided to do something pretty surprising, almost an overcorrection if you think about it, for having thrown Noah out too soon, and that was pretty much having him not play again. I mean, he really wasn't seen for a lot of the season until towards the end of the year. He was really relegated to practice and learning how to be specifically just an outside corner. He did not compete with Nick Needham. If you remember, the media was asking a lot, like, hey, is Noah, one, they were questioning why he was even put on Diggs in the first place, which was a fair thing to question, but then also why they weren't trying him at slot, considering, Nick Needham isn't an elite slot corner, and they didn't have him compete at all. Instead, they had what I think could be quite a fortuitous decision and a long-term mindset with this young man. He sat behind 2 elite-level corners and learned. He just sat in the room and through osmosis learned. He spent the entire season honing his craft in practice, being able to, throw things off, bounce ideas off of, other players in the room, his coaches, and get better. Clearly, his confidence doesn't seem to have been shaken, and he got to watch pros like X and Jones take care of their bodies, how they do it, how they prepare mentally, how do they prep for an opposing quarterback, what to look for, different tendencies, things he probably didn't even know he didn't know because he was so young and raw. And again, he had transitioned from, I believe it was receiver to corner, I believe just a season and a half before at Auburn. So he is extremely raw as a prospect, and he got to see up close and personal what it takes to be a great one from two great ones. And if he's putting in the work this offseason, taking what he learned and applying it the right way, getting better, then the now 21-year-old could honestly make a big leap in year 2, specifically as a boundary corner. And if he's able to take that step and contribute to this defense in a meaningful way next season, I know it's optimistic, but hey, you're listening to the PhinsPod. We're a pretty optimistic show here. And it's a Friday, so lay off. But if he's able to contribute, that's a huge boon for this team. One, not only is it, hey, you have a 21-year-old corner who's good, you're set, at least for one half of the field for a decade, kind of like a Patrick Peterson situation. He's been there for so long. Well, not anymore, but that was great for Arizona. Just a staple. Drafting someone that you can have there for over a decade is so valuable. Miami also doesn't have an athlete quite like him on their back end. He's crazy fast. You could argue not as fast as Byron Jones potentially, but he's right there. And he is much stronger than Byron Jones at the point of attack. He can play press and match up with more physical receivers, something which can help take some pressure off of Howard and Eric Rowe, who sometimes pulls those assignments. He's also a ball hawk, or at least more of a ball hawk than Byron Jones is. So potentially you'll get more turnovers with a guy like him. And it would allow the Dolphins defense this season to be what we spoke about at the top of the show. Multiple. Having different athletes match up with their athletes, opposing offenses. And look, I hope to see a big jump from the young corner, Igbinoghene, in his sophomore season. With the coaching from Flores and a true offseason, there's a shot that the 2020 draft class is about to look even better. And look, I can't wait to run all this back, baby, and get to ball. Because seeing guys like Noah Igbinoghene develop, again, is just another feather in the cap for what this potential organization is becoming in terms of a consistent winner, right? If Noah Igbinoghene, now I messed up, right, the 20th time, but if he ends up becoming what Flores drafted him 30th overall to become, then this defense is about to get much, much better, and it goes to show you that they're making sound decisions in their scouting, in their evaluation, and in the team building. So overall, really excited to see what the young man can do, because if you've been on social media, he's been putting in work, right? I think he's been going up against Dolphins receivers. He's been working in the gym. I think he looks way bigger. Travis Wingfield tweeted some crazy bench thing he was doing. Noah Igbinoghene's a crazy athlete, so I would be ready to see a potential explosion here. And just remember, you heard it here first.
So as fate would have it, you would get drafted by Miami Dolphins and head coach Brian Flores. It's no secret to everyone else that they've got a ton of picks. They're looking to build towards the future. Does it make you excited to be a part of a franchise that is trying to build a winning culture?
Yes. This is kind of crazy. I've always wanted to do that in my sports career. I've always wanted to be a part of a team like this. And it was really fun last year. It was really fun just to see the team grow. And I can't wait to see how far we go. We're going to be something special. It's going to be a jump. That's all I'm gonna say. It's gonna be a jump. I wanted to play out how it's gonna play out. God gonna do what he needs to do, and it's gonna happen how it needs to happen. So I know I'm working right now. I'm working my butt off, and it's gonna pay off.
I think everyone, especially Miami Dolphins fans, are gonna be really excited for that jump.
Thank you guys so much for listening to the PhinsPod. I hope you guys have a great rest of your weekend. We're going to have episodes coming out tomorrow and our Q&A episode coming out Sunday. So be sure to follow us on Instagram at PhinsPod to be able to submit a question for the show. I hope you guys enjoy the episode today. If you want more of the show, check out our Patreon, patreon.com/PhinsPod. For $2 a month, you can listen to bonus episodes as well, and the site has other goodies over there as well. Links in the description on YouTube, or head over to patreon.com/PhinsPod. Thank you all so much for the support there, and please remember to like the video if you enjoyed the show, and subscribe on YouTube. Again, we've gotten a bunch of new subscribers, so if you're listening, for the first time, or it's less than 5 times, thank you so much. Appreciate you being here, and we're only getting started. And to the longer time listeners, Thank you all so much for being here. And of course, we are going to be rolling with this. And draft season is a-coming. We got a mock draft dropping tomorrow, and I think you'll be, we'll see how you'll feel about where I think the Dolphins go. Remember as well that the PhinsPod is available on all platforms, Spotify, Apple, and Google Podcasts, and of course on YouTube. Continue the conversation with us over on Twitter and Instagram at PhinsPod, and check out the site for news and content, PhinsPod.com. Hope you all have an amazing day, and until next time, stay safe. Love y'all.